So we're going to start with Supreme Court. We're going to start on the positive. On Tuesday, they said Texas can, for now, use a new state law to detain and deport migrants entering or living in the U.S. illegally, a loss for the Biden administration, which has been fighting with the state over how to secure the nation's southern border. Now, that's, to me, is a positive. We'll dive into Senate Bill 4 in a second, but the negative thing that happened, in my eyes, I would love to get your take as well, but a U.S. District Court judge ruled earlier this month that completely prohibiting illegal immigrants from possessing firearms is a violation of the Second Amendment, which is insane. We'll get into that in a second, though. So Senate Bill 4, let's dive a little bit deeper to hear what Mexico had to say about this, because their voice matters, I guess. The law known as Senate Bill 4 makes it a crime, a misdemeanor on a first offense and a felony after that, to cross into Texas from a foreign country anywhere other than a legal port of entry. Makes sense. After being arrested, migrants could be ordered during the court process to return to Mexico or face prosecution if they do not agree to go. Now, the foreign ministry of the Mexican government harshly criticized, the Senate Bill 4 last year, responded to the Supreme Court's action on Tuesday by saying, get this, that it would not, under any circumstances, accept deportations made by the state of Texas, and that immigration policy was a matter between federal, not state governments. Can you imagine that another country that you are bordered with is telling you, nah, we're not going to accept those people that crossed over illegally from our country. If you send them back over, we're just not going to take them.
But yeah, I don't know how you're going to be able to do that. You're going to send them over whether you like it or not, either by bus, box, or plane.
a metal container.
We're sending them back to you, period. Because we should not, and we will not be able to add them to our population, to our infrastructure. It will destroy our sovereignty. That's the whole point of it.
And keep in mind that if they were to stay, in our detention, we, the taxpayers, pay for that.
Or what if they know that these people that are coming over could be potential, soldiers for
another
army?
The people they don't want
military
back.
Men, possibly.
Or it could be they are the worst of the worst. They took them from their jails in Mexico and said, nah, go ahead, go to America.
MS-13 is a serious organization.
There was I saw some show, it was like 2020 or something like that actually went into detail on how a lot of these young men were coming over the border and taking over land in Texas, in California, in New Mexico, and in Arizona, taking over land, basically squatting.
Yep.
And just setting up shop. They were just literally setting up shop. Where they're selling drugs, growing drugs, baking drugs, and selling it to their gang members in other states. They were like the hub, and we just let it happen. This was like a 2020 episode.
They'll really treat us like we some PABs.
Yes. I knew I was going to say it out loud. And
that's what I think we are. Like, yo, you just going to come over here and just
punk us?
Yeah,
you punk us like that?
We ain't like we some suckers now.
You think Trump would have allowed that?
No.
Right.
No. Trump, and he said it in his campaign speech. He said, yo, listen, there are some good people that are coming across. Maybe I'll clean this up for him a little bit, but there are some really bad people. And listen, folks, and just,
as we've seen,
and Jose is definitely hitting all the points as far as what is going on. But the human trafficking side, the sex trafficking side, the fact that
the drug trafficking,
the guns, all of the things that would just make you cringe if you knew exactly how bad it was. Even just us saying how bad it is, I'm pretty sure it's even worse than what we're saying right now.
Well, you see what they did with the movie Sound of Freedom. They attacked it saying it's a far right conspiracy. It's just pushing this propaganda, yada, yada. And everybody's sitting there like, yeah, think what you want, but illegal, sex trafficking is happening. Child sex trafficking is happening. We've seen it with not just, Jeffrey Epstein, but we're now seeing it with freaking Puff Daddy.
Yeah.
And the entire, or allegedly, the entire rap industry is being infiltrated by this sex trafficking. And we're just going to sit there and say this is a far-right conspiracy?
You know that was part of Donald Trump's campaign in 2020, and he also had an executive order to address the human trafficking issue. Like, he actually addressed it, and he spoke about it on his campaign, and yet the Democrats were actually against his position on human trafficking. I wonder why. Oh, wait a minute. Remember in Haiti when one of Hillary Clinton's, and it was the Clinton Foundation staffers, was caught with 12 undocumented Haitian kids? They stopped them, questioned them, and actually got these kids out of their possession and back to where they belong. And Haiti is really, really bad. But just where there's smoke, there's fire. Why does it seem as though that people on the left are against human trafficking and
are for human trafficking, or against the bills to prevent it?
Right, they're for human trafficking and also for open borders.
It's undeniable when you look at it from this perspective. Who is battling child sex trafficking and who is not? Just keep it as that. You don't have to be for it, but if you are voting against bills or voting against, legislative actions that would actually tackle human trafficking and child sex trafficking, and the fact that we've had 85,000 kids that have gone missing, and that was before. We don't know what the number is.
That's the number they gave us.
Yeah, that's the number they gave us, and that's an old number on top of that. But then on top of that, we got U.S. District Court judges who are saying that this Carvajal Flores had no criminal history of improper use of a gun, and therefore, according to their court, did not present a public danger when exercising his Second Amendment right in Chicago. So what world are we living in where we can have a illegal migrant, illegal immigrants, a person that's here illegally? I'm not Joe Biden. I'm not going to mince my words here. I'm not going to change them up to make someone feel better, a criminal feel better about their actions. You're here illegally, and now on top of that, you have a gun. And his reason, he says, that he received and used the handgun solely for self-protection and protection of property during a time of documented civil unrest in the spring of 2020, aka Summer of Love. The judge wrote, thus, this court finds that as applied to Carvajal Flores, Title 18 is unconstitutional. That is insane to me, knowing that what Democrats are doing, where they don't want you to own guns.
Mike Hennessy.
But yet they want our illegal immigrants to own it and also give them the same benefits that we have as American citizens. We got Mike Hennessy on the line. Mike, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Jose. Hi, Lavelle. How you doing,
Mike.
Man?
How are you doing, brother?
Hey, getting lots of great feedback on our interview. You should go to Good News Talk and watch that interview with Lavelle, or listen. But you mentioned it, Jose, 85,000 to 100,000 lost kids that were brought up by coyotes and left off and put on buses and put on planes and sent out by NGOs, non-governmental organizations, which and I know one of the biggest ones, I hate to say it, I'm not going to say it out loud, but it rhymes with Catholic Charities, is running a lot of these places and assigning these kids to adoptive/foster parents. And there's a lot of these kids, and I've seen a lot of social media where people with microphones are going up to places where they know hundreds and hundreds of kids are being housed, and nobody will talk to them. Nobody will tell them what they're doing there. And it's crazy. It really is crazy what's going on.
Mike, you're hitting on the head. On top of that, they actually were presenting people who were migrating from South America through Mexico with maps, saying exactly where to stay, who to speak to, who not to speak to, and how to get into the country illegally. They were presenting that to the illegal immigrants coming through, saying, we'll protect you. Here's your map on how to get it done.
Yeah, it's absolutely reckless what's going on, and you were right too. I thought you were gone over the edge a little bit when you said they're going to put these guys into the military, but they're trying to do it. They're trying to do it now. They're trying to put these these guys that crossed illegally from China, from Syria, from Afghanistan, and they're trying to put them in our military because they know that they'll do exactly what they're told.
Exactly. Thank you, Mike.
After they're weaponized.
I appreciate you calling in. And yeah, I mean, we've been on this podcast for, I don't know, over 2 years now at this point, where we've talked about things that unfortunately have come true to the point where we're just your source for information at this point.
Do you remember the first episode I was on and you got me drunk on purpose and let me drink by myself?
You're talking to Mike or me?
I'm talking to you. There was not, our conversation was wholesome and it was wonderful, and we definitely covered a lot in that show. I appreciate that invite too, Mike. But when we first talked about it, you threw up Jeffrey Epstein's face up on the screen and you had me react to it like you saved the best for last. But it gave myself an opportunity to address that, because I'm definitely not the first person to bring this to anybody's consciousness, but it was something that I looked into. And, when you learn about how much money this operation makes, it's $1 billion industry. And then you go and connect it to a lot of other nefarious things that was happening within some of our religious leaders within the Vatican and those type of situations there. And then you find the freedom fighters. Like, I don't know if anybody know of this former U.S. Senate leader. U.S. Senate Congresswoman Nancy Schaefer. She was one of the first U.S. government officials to come out and speak about how terrible CPS was and how they did not have a system in place to go back and make sure that these kids are within a stable home. And guess what happened to her and her husband? She ended up unalive with it was a murder-suicide situation between her and her husband. And mind you, they're elderly and they've been married for 30 years, and all of a sudden...
Weird how that works out. WYSL radio station, the politically correcting boys, Laval Lewis, myself, the Jose P.O.